Welcome to the latest edition of Conversations with Cabrera, and today I'm truly excited to have my colleague, fellow alum, and dear friend Brian Blake, who's president of our largest public university, well actually largest university of any kind in the state of Georgia, Georgia State University. We are, of course, incredibly proud of Brian, a product of Georgia Tech with an amazing career, both in business and then in higher education, and now leading to his first presidency at an incredibly important university in our state. So thank you so much, Brian, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. For people who may not know you that well, you grew up in Savannah, as I understand, probably a little bit like in my family, you didn't have sort of references in higher education or in technology. So how does a kid from Savannah end up becoming an engineer, ends up in the tech industry, and ends up doing what you're doing?
I'm first generation, so my dad got an associate's degree from Savannah Tech. My mom didn't go to college, and through very early on, I don't know what it was. He owned a service station, and he had computers to do accounting. He never used them, but I did. So the more I got involved with computers, somewhere around my third grade, fourth grade, which was relatively early for my age, I just got really enthralled by computing. So I remember trying to decide what university I was going to go to. And it's kind of very much my uncles, I have family here, so coming up to Georgia Tech, and kind of the reputation even then was just so strong in the city. So that was a major decision.
So you graduate from Georgia Tech, and you immediately go into business, right? You had a good career as a software engineer. What do you take from that business experience? How did those years in business shape maybe how you operate now as a leader in higher ed?
In industry, you got to get it done. So, what you get out of that is that the deadlines are deadlines, and it feels like if you don't get the deadlines, the job didn't get done and the work doesn't start. So I really did take that into academia when I went into faculty life. The way you manage teams in industry, I begin to realize that you got to maximize the best skills of the people you have, and sometimes it's not what you want, but it's kind of what you can get. And I leveraged that to kind of have a great undergraduate research team that actually worked really well with my graduate team. So it was kind of, I'd say the two things that came out of it, one was certainly that sort of stick-wittedness to get to deadlines, and then others was just kind of the management piece is just not well trained as a graduate student, and you get that for free in industry.
So you then had a very fast and really stellar career in great institutions. You did Notre Dame, you did University of Miami.
Right.
Eventually you become provost at Drexel, all of those private institutions. And all of a sudden you become the president of this, one of the biggest, most diverse universities in the country, which happens to be a public university.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about that transition.
We're almost like 6 institutions. We got 23,000 Black and African American students. That's almost like 3 universities. 12,000 Caucasian students. We have 6,000 to 8,000 Latinx, Hispanic, Latino students, and we have about 6,000 to 8,000 Asian American students. So we're just a real melting pot. And the living laboratory that makes and the impact it makes, and a lot of those students from Georgia, it just reminds me of myself walking across campus on a day-by-day basis. While at the same time, we're just an amazing research institution that has so many ties to corporate policy and sort of the running of the state of Georgia. So it's the impact is different than what I would experience if I went to a private institution in a rural area. So that's the part that I think is so fulfilling in the world.
As I mentioned, it's a pretty big deal. I mean, it is the largest university in the state. You have this duality that you are very large,
right?
The most diverse university in the state. You're also in R1, Research One University, I guess, in higher education lingo, which is the highest rating in the
Right.
research classification of universities. What else is unique about Georgia State? What have you found at the university that really jumps out at you?
If you look at Georgia State's downtown campus, if you look directly up north, you've got Truist, Georgia Power, Southern Company, NCR, any number of like industry positions that are either in Midtown or the northern part of South Downtown. You've got Grady Memorial, which is like right a block from my office. So they're right on campus. So you got health sciences, you have real clinical work, you've got nursing practice, you have all those things. Directly south, you've got the Capitol building, which actually cuts between our center of our campus and our Summer Hill campus. So you got City Hall, all within blocks of our campus, all the municipal buildings, the courthouse. And if you go all the way due west, again, just blocks, you got the Hawks, the Falcons, you've got the United, you've got all these sports things. And then sprinkled around all this, you got hotels. So I tell the students that come in is like, you can see your outcome walking to class because you're right in the middle of all of these great outcomes. So I think that's really special. And then because we're accessible and we have students from all walks of life all through Georgia, our student success, our data analytics, our ability to take 52,000 students and saying, okay, that particular one student, we need to touch them and actually get them a call from an advisor is one of the things I think that makes the experience at Georgia State so rich.
So let's talk about our city that we share. What's cool about Atlanta? You and I studied here in the 90s.
Yeah.
Life took us in different directions.
Yep.
And then we returned to this city.
Right.
What's different? What excites you about the city?
Yeah, so for one, Atlanta influences everything. That catchphrase couldn't be more true. Where Atlanta is this amazing canvas for which everything's possible. And I think companies are seeing that. We're seeing companies flock in. We're seeing entertainers flock in. We got amazing weather. It's really an amazing opportunity right now for certainly university presidents, but also business owners to really take advantage of a city that is somewhat defined by a really rich civil rights history, but still has a way to go in definition to what it's going to be kind of as we move into the future. So that part of it is really exciting to me, and I think it's a renaissance place right now, and we're kind of at the cusp.
I think the history of Atlanta and the role that Georgia State and Georgia Tech are playing in its development, I think over time will become a very interesting case study, right, of how higher education can really be an intentional engine of innovation and change in the city. And I look forward to continue to work with you on behalf of our public universities and our city.
Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for bringing me back to my history, and thanks for having me here today.
Thank you.
Thanks.